from the South. I'm from Mississippi. And I was fortunate to play in the NBA for about 9 years. Played with the Denver Nuggets for 6 years. I played with Sacramento for 2. And I played with the Vancouver Grizzlies for 1. At 9 years old, I was blessed at that young age to know what it was I wanted. Sometimes you have individuals, they'll go through college for 4 years, 5 years, and get out and realize, you know what, I don't even know if that's what I want to do. For me, at 9, 10 years old, I knew that becoming a professional was what I wanted. And I was also blessed not only to have that vision, but to also chart out a path to give myself the best opportunity to see it come true. And so even at 9, 10 years old, I began to wake up 4 o'clock in the morning. And because my mindset at that age was, how many children are trying to wake up that early and put this type of work in to make it to that next level? I love the game of basketball, but for me, becoming an NBA player was more than the love for it. I felt I had to play basketball. I felt that I needed to play basketball because I didn't have confidence pretty much in anything else. I didn't have confidence in my education, in my intellectualism, so to speak, because my mother had an 8th grade education. There's only so much she could give us. So we struggled. I struggled with an inferiority complex, feeling inadequate at that young age. So for me, basketball was a way out. It gave me confidence. And it was also like a father I didn't have, because I grew up without a father figure. I had 2 brothers, my mother raised both of us. And so for me, becoming an NBA player was like life or death. So I wake up every morning, literally at 4 o'clock, and it didn't matter to me if it was storming outside. And I'm not exaggerating, it didn't matter, literally. You could hear the thunder and lightning coming, it could be raining profusely, and I'm not even outside yet, and I'm putting on my shoes like the sun is shining. That's how focused I was in trying to make it. Didn't matter how hot it was, didn't matter how cold it was. And we didn't have the best of clothes. There were times literally it's freezing outside and I have shorts and a shirt on. And I'm out there coming back home, frostbitten hands, everything. This is how bad I wanted. And I didn't know at that age that, and even if I did, it doesn't mean that it would have made a difference. Because when you believe in something, you want something, you have a love for something, that's what you want. But I didn't know that I had better, statistically, I had a better chance of becoming an engineer, doctor, or lawyer. Because at that time, it was like 1 out of maybe 700 and some thousand that made it to the NBA. Now, it's even more than that, because when you factor in the overseas market and everything else, probably well over 1 in a million. That'll make so that the chances are slim. But for me, every single day, I would get out there and I would train, and there were numerous occasions that I had near-death experiences because I was working so hard. And the death experiences came because I also found out when I was in 11th grade. So all of this time from elementary all the way up to the 11th grade, prior to 11th, I had a condition that I knew nothing about in the sense of that they had a name for, which is Tourette syndrome. How many of you have ever heard of Tourette syndrome? Right. It's a neurological disorder. Right. It's like your mind and your body on 2 different wavelengths. It's like you want whatever you do to be perfect. I use the example a lot, even if it hurts. If I'm hitting this, and I used to do this in games sometimes, in practice. You see that? You hear how loud that sounds? That hurt my knuckles. But if I do that and it doesn't feel right coming off my knuckles, I gotta do it again with the same amount of intensity until my mind and my body's on the same page. So when you take that into your practice, every little thing you do, you're going through your whole day doing this, it can become taxing. But the thing that I found was that when I was young, I said, man, why do I have to have this? We look at these things as a weakness. But I realized that God gave this to me as a strength at the same time. And there's this book out by Malcolm Gladwell. Anyone of you ever heard of Malcolm Gladwell? He has a book out. It's called Blink, a lot of stuff. But he has a book out called David and Goliath, How We Perceive Advantages and Disadvantages. And at a young age, I looked at that as a disadvantage. But the more I began to train, I realized, wow, this thing is pushing me. Because when little Chris Jackson, which was my name before I changed it, when I would get through practicing for an hour and a half, and I'm working hard, I used to imagine 1 or 2 different invisible people playing against me. Wherever I went, however fast I was dribbling, they were always on the ball like this. So I'm trying to escape them and get the shot off and be consistent the whole time, trying to create space with this invisible person. Because at that young age, I knew, and it was just by the grace and mercy of Allah, at a 9-year-old thinking this way, I knew that an individual can't stay with me like my imagination can. If I can create space with my imagination, you don't have a chance when I'm playing against you. So this was kind of like, for me, how I trained. But after I trained for that hour and a half, I'm ready to go. Chris Jackson ready to go. I played these invisible people. I'm tired. I'm breathing hard. Tourette's comes in the picture. You can't go nowhere. Now you gotta play me. And so, in my mind, it's saying, look, even though you're tired, even though you're ready to go home, you have to make 10 shots in a row, full speed. And none of them can hit ring. So I'm tired. So I'm at 10th shot, I'm 9. None of them hit rim. I shoot the next one. It skims the rim, but it goes in. I can't take that 10th shot over again. I gotta start back at 0. So that might take another hour and a half just to finish that drill. So day in and day out, I had to do this over and over. And so as a child, 9, 10 years old, I'm waking up in the morning. Literally, there are days I'm crying like a baby. Because I don't want to go. Because I know what I'm going to have to put myself through to get to that next stage. But what I found was, the more I began to train, and you can tell me when I got about 5 minutes, the more I began to train, Allah began to open doors for me. And I go from this elementary school, and we had games where it was 43 to 46. I had 42 out of 43 points. 36 to 42. We lost those games, but I had all 36. So the names began to be known. So I go through high school, #1 guard in the nation coming out. One time we went to Princeton, Nike camp at the time. I don't know if they still have it in Princeton. You know, the top 110 in the nation. And so all my life, majority of my life, I'm undersized. Here it is, this little boy. We don't know what's wrong with it. You got Tourette's syndrome. They're counting you out, right? But you're using that to fuel your drive, your determination. I get to this Nike camp. Michael Jordan, just like I'm talking to you right now, there was stands, and Michael Jordan was, if you were me, Michael Jordan is this close and he's talking to us, and I'm right there on the bottom of the bleachers. And I'm just looking at him, you know, one of the greatest players ever played. And out of everybody, he says, "Come here, young fella." And he calls me out to the basketball court. And I've been training all of this time, this is my goal to make it. And I was literally on the left side, right here. And he said, "I want you to come at me as hard as you can." He wanted me in plane. So I remember getting the ball, and I gave him a jab step, just like that. I took off. And when I took off, I took him. Because you're dealing with a guy 6'5", 6'6", in the NBA. And as I took off, he was after me. From here to here, you can hear it. I mean, and I went, instead of going up, I went through, and I took some off of it, and I scored on it. Crowd. Outwardly, I didn't show it. But outwardly, inwardly, but outwardly, I walked back like this. Not cocky, but confident. You learn that as an athlete. I get it again. I won it this time, I get it. So this time, I act like I'm pop, I cross him over, and I lay him up over that side. He comes out the rim, out the net. He asks me to give it to him, and he tells me to go sit down. From that moment, I knew that all the stuff that I've been doing up to that point had been working out. And so, with me, again, I felt that this was, this becoming an NBA basketball player, it was life or death. And the more I trained, Allah began to open doors for me. I go to LSU. I remember the guy telling me, he said, "What do you want your career to say for itself?" You know, I'm about 5'11" and a half with no shoes on. So really about 6 feet with shoes on. And I told him, I said, look, if I can average 13.7 assists for a season or my career, that's great. But inwardly, I was thinking bigger. But sometimes when you have big goals and you tell somebody, they may not see it the way you do. I don't want that discouragement. So I get to my first year. To make a long story short, I ended up averaging as a freshman 30.2 points a game. My first year in college. Second year, Shaquille O'Neal was on the team in Stanley, so I got a few less shots. I was averaging like 28. And then I ended up going first pick, third round. First round, third pick to the Denver Nuggets. And Allah blessed me through that period because all throughout my childhood I had questions about religion, questions about my belief system. And Allah blessed me to become a Muslim. And then once I became a Muslim, I became more conscious. And once I became more conscious, I had to make a decision to make certain choices that may be unpopular. And when I made those choices as a young man, they had repercussions. So when I didn't stand for the flag, and I'm rushing through it because I have time, I'm missing a whole lot of details, but they ended up suspending me for a game. And after that, my career basically kind of went downhill because I didn't fall into the stereotype of what athletes or how athletes should behave. You know, it's okay to do other things, right? Like Dennis Rodman dressing in drag, people being up on rape charges, that's okay, we can forgive them. But you having a social and political and religious consciousness, this is unacceptable. So my career began to go downhill, playing with your minutes, things of this nature. And then the HBO 9/11 happened, and I couldn't keep my mouth shut. You know, but it's okay because we all have to make choices. And for me, when I was growing up, because I looked at myself in such a low way, questioning who I was as an individual, being afraid to voice my concerns about what I saw, I thought that was unjust. I knew I had to change that. And I knew that there would be repercussions, that it may cost me my career, but for me, what was more important was my principles and my values. And so the older I became, I made a conscious effort and decision that I'm going to, before I die, work toward living with a free conscience and a free soul, where anybody like it or not. And so I began to work on learning how to say no, learning how to say what I believe, whether people like it or not. And so those little things eventually rushed me out of the league, and I had to go overseas for 7 years. And I'm saying all that to say that we all have choices, you know, of who we want to be as individuals, careers that we want to adopt. But no matter what you choose to do, and I know you hear this, and I know your parents tell you time and again, no matter what you choose to do, whatever you believe in, right? If it's being a Muslim, be the best Muslim you can be. Don't compromise your integrity. Don't compromise your values. Don't compromise your principles for no one. We're talking about this today when we're eating. The thing that I fear the most is being on my deathbed and sitting on that deathbed and knowing that I didn't live a life that I wanted to live, and I was living for somebody else, trying to please somebody else. Can you imagine not having a second chance? Knowing, man, I should have stood up for this. I wanted to do this, I should have did that. But guess what? You don't have a chance, you don't have any more chances. And you die with that, those regrets. I don't want to die with them. You know, I want to die living free. Where the only way you can die that way is you gotta live that way. And so, I love y'all.